Most people experience anxiety, depression, and stress at some point in their lives. For most of us, these emotions are short term and don't interfere too much with our life. But for some, negative emotions can lead to deep despair that cause them to question their place in life, especially in this time of pandemic. This is known as existential crisis. Information here came from healthline.com, and as a disclaimer, these are for educational purposes only and doesn't mean a diagnosis. For anything, better consult your mental health professional. The idea of an existential crisis has been studied by psychologists and psychiatrists such as Gadamer Dabrowski and Irvin D. Yalom for decades, starting as early as 1929. Yet, even with lots of old and new research on the topic, you might be unfamiliar with this term or not understand how it differs from normal anxiety and depression. Here's what you need to know about an existential crisis as well as how to overcome this turning point. People can have existential crises when they start to wonder the meaning of life and its purpose. It's common to seek for meaning and purpose in our life. With an existential crisis, however, the problem lies in being unable to find satisfying answers. For some people, the lack of answers triggers a personal conflict from within, causing frustration and loss of inner joy. An existential crisis can affect anyone at any age, but many experience a crisis in the face of a difficult situation, perhaps the struggle to succeed. Daily challenges and stresses may not provoke an existential crisis. This type of crisis is likely to follow deep despair or a significant event such as major trauma or a major loss. A few causes of an existential crisis may include guilt about something, losing a loved one, in debt, or facing the reality of one's own death, feeling socially unfulfilled, dissatisfaction with self, and history of bottled up emotions. There are different types of existential crisis. First is crisis of freedom and responsibility. Remember the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." Yes, from Spider-Man. Freedom is also considered power. By making your own choices, which can change your life for the better or worse, most people prefer freedom as opposed to having someone make decisions for them. But this freedom also comes with responsibility. You have to accept the consequences of the choices you make. If you use your freedom to make a choice that doesn't end well, you can put the blame on anyone else. For some, this freedom is too overwhelming and it triggers existential anxiety, which is an all-encompassing anxiety about the meaning of life and choices. Second is crisis of death and mortality. An existential crisis can also happen after turning a certain age. For example, your 50th birthday may force you to confront the reality of your life being half over, leading you to question the foundation of your life. You might reflect on the meaning of life and death and ask questions like, what happened after that? Fear of what may follow death can trigger anxiety. This type of crisis can also occur after being diagnosed with a serious illness or when death is near. Third is crisis of isolation and connectedness. Even if you enjoy periods of isolation and solitude, humans are social beings. Yes, no man is an island. Strong relationships can give you mental and emotional support, bringing satisfactions and inner joy. The problem is that relationships aren't always permanent. People can drift apart physically and emotionally, and that often separates loved ones. This can lead to isolation and loneliness, causing some people to feel that their life is pointless. Next is crisis of meaning and meaninglessness. Having a meaning and purpose in life can provide hope, but after reflecting on your life, you may feel that you didn't accomplish anything significant or make a difference. This can lead people to question their very existence. And lastly, crisis of emotions, experiences, and embodiment. Not allowing yourself to feel negative emotions can sometimes lead to an existential crisis. Some people black out pain and suffering, thinking this will make them happy, but it can often lead to a false sense of happiness. And when you don't experience true happiness and joy, life can feel empty. On the other hand, emotions and acknowledging feelings of pain, discontentment, and dissatisfaction can open the door to personal growth and improving an outlook on life. Experiencing anxiety and depression when your life is off track doesn't always mean that you're going through an existential crisis. These emotions, however, are tied to a crisis when accompanied by a need to find meaning of life. Finding your purpose and meaning in life can help you break free of an existential crisis. Here are the few tips to cope. First is take control of your thoughts. Replace negative and pessimistic ideas with positive ones. Telling yourself that your life is meaningless can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead, take steps to live a more meaningful life. Pursue a passion, volunteer for a cause in which you believe, or practice being compassionate. Next is keep a gratitude journal to overcome negative feelings. Your life probably has more meaning than you think. Write down everything for which you are grateful. This might include your family, work, talents, qualities, and accomplishments. I have this gratitude journal where I listed 3 blessings I received within the day. Try it out. Next is to remind yourself of why life has meaning. Taking the time to self-explore can also help you break through an existential crisis. If you have difficulty seeing the good in yourself, ask friends and family to identify or describe you and your qualities. And lastly, don't expect to find all the answers. This doesn't mean that you can seek answers to life's big questions. Well, we need to understand that some questions won't have answers. To get through an existential crisis, we can break down questions into smaller answers and then working to become satisfied with learning the answers to the smaller questions that make up the bigger picture. You might be able to break through an existential crisis on your own without the help of a doctor. But if symptoms persist or if they worsen, see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a therapist. These mental health experts can help you cope with the crisis through talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. This is a type of therapy that aims to change patterns of thinking or behavior. Seek immediate help if you have suicidal thoughts. Keep in mind though, you don't have to wait until a crisis reaches this point before speaking with a doctor or other healthcare provider. Even if you don't have thoughts about suicide, a therapist can help with severe anxiety, depression, or obsessive thoughts. An existential crisis can happen to anyone. Many question their existence and purpose in life. Despite the potential seriousness of this pattern of thinking, it is possible to overcome these crises and dilemmas. The key is understanding how an existential crisis differs from normal depression and anxiety, and getting help for any feelings or thoughts that beyond your control. I have a little legacy in Singapore where I stayed for 10 years of my life. I wrote books entitled All About Love and Why Am I Here? And during this time, I am experiencing this same crisis. These books are available in Woodlands Regional Library in Singapore, where I simply wrote my own realizations about life. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. And take care always because you matter.